Hi, I'm Luke Clearwater. I'm 21 years old and I live in Seattle, Washington. So I was diagnosed with ADHD slightly before or around like kindergarten age, like 4 or 5.
Do you remember it at all?
No, not even a little bit. I just remember being forced to take the medication.
And you didn't like taking the medication?
No, not at all. I didn't really feel like myself. Yeah, no, I remember being in like kindergarten and wondering why my teachers were like super annoyed with me just for doing me.
Did you get that reaction from anyone else in your life?
My parents, for sure.
Really?
Oh yeah, no, before I was even like medicated, as far as I can tell, before I was even diagnosed, they had me on this like weird infomercial vitamin called like Focus Factor.
What it was for?
It was for just, you know, as legitimate as infomercials really can be. It was, this vitamin that's gonna rewire your brain so that you focus better and you can accomplish all these things. And it didn't work. It just made me mad that I had to take it because I didn't want to, and that's it's a big character trait for me, as I'm not typically gonna do things I don't want to do.
And
Teachers saying that I was constantly a disruption in class and that I was just distracting people and just being an inconvenience, and I didn't really have any concept of what ADHD or any of that type of diagnosis was. I knew oh, you have the flu. Just general stuff like that. Nothing actually wrong with you, the way that your brain works.
do you think things would be different if children were more informed about what that kind of stuff was?
I think children would benefit from, more information and awareness, but I also don't think people should take ADHD as seriously as they do. It's nothing that needs to be medicated.
What do you think is a better alternative?
A better alternative is learning yourself as parents and as teachers to accommodate to the different types of people you're going to encounter. I make music, I'm a musician, singer-songwriter, produce electronic music.
Do you think the ADHD has any influence on your music?
It gets in the way sometimes.
How so?
Just because I don't know if this is typical for everybody, but with ADHD it's really hard to focus on one specific thing for a long amount of time. So if I'm trying to write something while my head's going in a million different directions at once, 5 minutes later I'm doing something else entirely. I forgot what I was just doing. Yeah, I failed most, if not every class that I ever took, up through 7th grade, when I was pulled out of the public school system and started attending an alternative school. Alternative school was really based around the idea that every child learns differently and kind of trying to accommodate to every student. But no, I remember having this one teacher and, beginning of class every day, she has half the 6th graders in her class, and that's core room. But she would, beginning of class just be like, all right, everyone hand in your homework, and she would look at me and be like, Luke, did you do it? I don't even need your answer. I know you didn't do it. Bye. Yeah, straight up.
So, were you prescribed medication for your ADHD?
I was prescribed Concerta.
What is that?
Concerta is a central nervous system stimulant type of pharmaceutical drug. It's not really as bad as drugs like Adderall or Ritalin, which are just pharmaceutical amphetamines.
And have you taken any of those?
I have used Adderall.
Was it prescribed?
It was not prescribed.
Well, what was your experience with Concerta? What did it feel like, do you think? Did it affect you in any way?
It was a long time ago, but I remember I never felt like myself. I felt like, in hindsight with my 21-year-old brain now, I kind of can recognize that I just felt like certain things in my brain weren't firing anymore like they used to. Just my brain was not operating in a way that I was used to, and it just was uncomfortable, and I didn't feel like myself. I felt detached from myself a bit. It made me really depressed, honestly.
And you have depression?
Also depression, yes.
Do you think that affected it like, that has something to do with it? Or
I don't really think it was that much of a problem at that point. I was a really, like, happy, like, yeah, I'm a kid. I'm gonna ride my bike and play at the playground after school hours.
Do you remember when you stopped taking the medication?
I remember when I did. I just don't remember when exactly I did. I think it was around... It was like halfway through 7th grade. My mom was just like, remember to take your Concerta before you leave. And then I just started being like, yeah, oh yeah, I just took it. And then just left without taking it because I didn't want to. And I was at an age where I was like, I'm not going to do this if I don't want to. Like, you can't physically force me to take this pill. Like, I can just leave the house and go to school. She was just like, why did you stop taking it? I was like, I don't like it. I've been telling you this since day one. But you just didn't listen. But, like, I don't like it. I'm not going to take it. I'm at an age where I can just, decide I'm just not going to. And just see what happens. With Adderall, it was mostly just for fun. Several years after I stopped taking any ADHD-related drugs, was mostly just I was living with someone who sold it because they didn't want to take it. So I got it really cheap, just did a whole lot of it, and honestly that didn't help with the school. Staying up all night, pretending to do homework, but actually just going on image forums on the internet and reading stories that do not relate to veterinary medicine whatsoever. My young adult life, okay, yeah. In my young adult life, mostly it becomes a problem mostly just when I'm trying to do anything really productive. Like find a job or something like that. I will hit my computer and start looking for jobs, and then the next thing I'm just on Facebook watching videos of baby goats. My opinion on ADHD, I don't think it's necessarily just like a mental illness, like depression, Asperger's, bipolar, borderline personality disorder, anything like that. I think it's just different. It's just different. I can't really put it into words exactly, but it's just, you're just a slightly different person. You know? Mm-hmm. Know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. Like, diffuse any stigmas? Well, what I would have to say is that just because somebody is slightly different than the normal cookie-cutter human being that society tries to produce doesn't mean that you have to repress that with prescription drugs. Especially something as dangerous, harmful, and long-term terrible for your health as amphetamines. Like Adderall or Ritalin. Or other forms of legal methamphetamine.
So we talked about the drugs, kind of. Do you think we talked enough about the drugs?
It's just a mere fraction of the drugs that I've done, sweetheart. They either turn you into a zombie or just a straight up just tweaker. Because you're just doing meth. Mm-hmm. But it's doctor's orders.
Yeah.
Don't medicate something that you personally find just inconvenient. Because that is how I think a lot of the, ADHD drug craze of the mid-late 90s, early 2000s really became a thing. They were just like, these kids are out of control. Yeah, that's not good. We should just embrace the weird. Not everyone's going to be the same. You're going to have the hyperactive kid. You're going to have the kid who's just distracted because the basic school format doesn't necessarily work for them. And it needs to work for everybody. Since, the big wave of everyone saying, oh, my child has ADHD, or people themselves saying, oh, I have ADHD because I'm distracted, I think that eventually settled itself and people started realizing more that it's not, on the same spectrum of autism. There's not really anything entirely wrong with you. You just kind of look at the world in a different way. And you make connections a different way, and you think of things a different way.
So you never really had to, adjust anything in your life? It's just been your life?
I've also just kind of refused to,
Refused to adjust?
Yeah, I'm here, I'm doing what I'm doing, I'm not harming anybody, why should I change anything?